Let's talk about the currently ongoing coup attempt against Facebook. And make absolutely no mistake, a coup is precisely what this is. In fact, after the whole Blizzard thing really started to boil over, I was wondering, how long is it going to take before somebody takes a page out of this particular playbook and tries to apply it on a bit of a larger scale? Well, that answer has most assuredly been answered now, as Miss Haugen here has done one hell of a job in marshalling public opinion, or not public opinion, marshalling the mainstream media apparatus is probably a more correct term, as holy hell, the amount of coverage this is getting. You'd think this was the first whistleblower to step forward from a major tech corporation, or Facebook's first congressional hearing. We've had two now, and this is now brewing onto a third? I mean, this isn't news. The fact that social media harms children. I mean, you're welcome to tag along now that you've finally caught up, I do suppose, but the media frenzy around this is remarkable, and even more interesting than the fact that everyone is talking about it is that the coverage is near universally glowing. Not merely positive, but absolutely over-the-top hero worship. Haugen here, a blonde, mildly attractive woman, steps forward as the brave whistleblower, an ex-employee of Facebook's competitors, incidentally, and is lauded as a massive hero by the entire mainstream establishment. That's weird. What does she have that the other whistleblowers don't? Let me think about this. So, she isn't actually asking for any kind of restraint to be placed upon Facebook. That's rather interesting. She's not asking for Instagram to be taken away from Facebook, despite claiming that Instagram is even more damaging than Facebook. She's not asking for any restrictions to be placed upon them, some reining in of their power, or some limitation of their grasp, or any kind of economic consequences. The only thing she mentions is that Zuckerberg does hold 55% of all the voting shares for Facebook. Elements most decidedly activated. Now, calm down, YouTube. I'm not suggesting any kind of conspiracy here or anything, because I know that's against your terms of service and all that. I'm just saying that there's an awful lot of quinkydinks surrounding this. Entirely natural quinkydinks, mind you, of course. And the buzzwords, too. It harms children. Oh, think of the children. It stokes division. Oh, no. And weakens our democracy. With plentiful mentions of misinformation as well. All the usual media buzzwords. How strange. Almost as if this is an attack directed towards one single individual more so than a company. Now, why would that be happening? Why would they be going after poor old Zuck? Well, here's the thing. As much as I want to see Facebook burn, as much as any other sane person, I have to actually defend Mark Zuckerberg here a little bit, and I don't want to because, well, he's Mark Zuckerberg. And here's the thing. He essentially pays lip service to the idea of free speech. There was the quote that he didn't want Facebook to become the arbiters of truth, for example. He's also repeatedly said that he wants as much freedom of speech as possible on the platform, and he has attempted to side with personal liberties and free speech. Now, you could certainly argue that by and large that has been lip service, and he has certainly failed monstrously to live up to those lofty and admirable ideals, but he is still better than his competitors. Twitter, Google, YouTube are far worse than Facebook when it comes to freedom of speech. For all of Mark Zuckerberg's long and shitty-ass record, he's the best we got. Facebook is relatively free. heavy emphasis on the relative part there. And amusingly enough, of course, as well, Haugen seems to stress that a free Facebook without regulations on freedom of speech is a threat to democracy. Oh yes. Liberty, free speech, and the fair and equal exchange of ideas. A real danger to democratic rule right there, no doubt about it. I mean, hell, I found even an article like this. The Facebook whistleblower finally got Republicans to stop yapping out anti-conservative bias. Because, publications like Slate can't let this go without dragging in some partisan politics. Obviously. So, anti-conservative bias. Silly-willy conservatives. This is a conspiracy theory, don't you know? Which, incidentally, you're not allowed to share conspiracy theories anymore. Now, we could go through certain lists of things that Democratic leaders have said and haven't been banned from any of the social media platforms, mind you, whilst a certain other Republican got yeeted for telling people to go protest peacefully. I mean, we shan't mention that too much, however, because I myself, of course, have had a video taken down for merely showing the man saying that. So, details. But here's the problem with all of this. Right now, the way that this is being framed is for pro-censorship. It is more restrictions. Harm children? Okay, here's the thing. I agree with some of this as well. I absolutely do. Does social media potentially harm children? Yeah, sure. Does it stoke division? Undoubtedly. Does it weaken our democracy the way it's run right now? Absolutely. Because harm children. Now, I'm starting to really do believe that there should be an age limit to access social media. Now, age limits are utterly pointless, and you can just simply go like, yes, no, I'm 22 years old, or 99 for that matter. It's not a problem. But there should be some good faith efforts made to try and limit actual children's access to social media. In fact, the idea of an Instagram for kids, I'm not actually opposed to that, assuming it is actually for children. Actually properly organized for them with fairly heavy moderation, because again, these are kids we're talking about, and to put it rather simply, their brains are not fully developed yet. Stoke division? Oh yeah. And how weaken our democracy? Absolutely. And you know what? It's not because of increasing restrictions on free speech. It is not because you are hammering down on misinformation. And just today, there was a segment on the Norwegian news which said that one of the Voldemort vaccines were having problems in that they were causing heart flimmers in certain people. Now, YouTube, again, I'm simply quoting the news here, don't eat me for misinformation, but you're not allowed to talk about that. I can't say that. Somebody on Facebook or Twitter can't say that. But when it comes from the mainstream sources, suddenly it's an entirely different set of rules, isn't it? Obviously, this will create division when you have two clearly, distinctly separate classes of people, where one side is allowed to say anything and everything it wants to. I can refer you back to the list of Democrats arguing, for example, that any members of Trump's cabinet should be confronted at restaurants or gas stations, that he should gather up mobs to tell them that they're not welcome. I mean, to me that sounds like an urge to lynch people, but hey, minor insignificant details indeed. By the way, the woman, the Maxine Waters chick, then actually doubled down on that later as well. But again, details. There is no such thing as anti-conservative bias, you must understand. And weaken our democracy. Absolutely. When you ban one of the presidential candidates from getting access to the largest communication platforms around, that will weaken democracy. When you are actively banning certain politicians, that will weaken democracy. When you force states to actually put in place laws saying, no, you're not actually allowed to ban politicians, yes, social media is weakening democracy. And you know how you fix both of these in a snap? you put down legislation saying no, you are not allowed to censor. No matter how ridiculous it is, you're not allowed to do it. Even if someone wants to put forth the theory that black people come from space, and their melanin makes them racially superior and capable of empathy, unlike us filthy cave, what was it, toilet seat Neanderthals? Was that the phrase? Even if somebody wants to say that, fine. But you do have to allow the other side as well. Because you have to be able to trust in humans at least a little bit. Even if somebody quotes the mustachioed Austrian word for word, it's not going to make everybody suddenly walk out of their houses and begin goose-stepping down the street. That's not how this works. Now, on the other hand, however, if you repeatedly attack, censor, block, and ruin the groups of one particular political leaning, you're getting a hell of a lot closer to that whole marching thing, aren't you? So maybe you should try not to? Deaf ears, most assuredly so. As currently, of course, this is heading in the exact opposite direction. Now, the best part too was Facebook even said that they are not at all in opposition to unified, clarified rule sets and regulations that affect all social media platforms. Which is funny. Facebook is standing there with the bind before their eyes already, smoking a cigarette as they hear the click-click off in the distance of the firing squad, and they're going, hold on, could I at least have some company? Oh, I have a sneaking suspicion that Twitter, YouTube, Google, etc. will not be as affected by this, judging by how hard they're pushing it. And incidentally, just another little bit of an interesting tidbit there. Who is the ones actually pushing this? Because he mentions that Facebook pushes people towards negative content. Because, well, that's where the ad money is. That's where the maximum number of clicks is. What's the single largest entity in the ad market again? Oh right, Google AdSense. But no, they're not guilty of anything. They have no responsibility. It's just that evil Mark Zuckerberg. Well, if nothing else, I guess we can hope that maybe this will teach old Zucko here a lesson enough to maybe go, you know what? Screw you. You know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to put down terms of service that makes all speech 100% free, and if you don't like it, screw it, you authoritarian cocksuckers. Unlikely, but hey, a man can hope. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.